Raise your hand or stand. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. And at this time, I would like to bring up Captain Maureen Webb, who created, implemented, and oversees the Professional Leadership Mentoring Program at American Airlines. It's a 4-day mandated FAA course, and very insightful by the FAA to recognize last night's new captains were as young as 2 years with the company. So this is an awesome tool to for them to benefit. Captain Maureen Webb.
Good afternoon, all. Can you hear me? Louder. Oh, I never have trouble. You can hear me coming down the hall far away. All right. Well, thank you for having me today. It's a true pleasure to be here, and it's an honor. I'd like to talk to you about our Professionalism, Leadership, and Mentoring program that's an FAA requirement and a required training program for us, but I can't think of a better day to talk about a professional and a leader and mentoring in the flight deck than while we're recognizing Captain Barker and Captain Root. So it's quite very appropriate for today. Funny story on how I got here. Well, sort of funny. Every Tuesday night, I have the pleasure of meeting with, we lovingly refer to them as the ABCs, Alan, Bob, and Charlie, and of course Jock. You're not left out on that one. But every Tuesday night we go to the captain upgrade reception. It's all of our brand new upgrading captains, and they're in this course. And we host it at the C.R. Smith Museum, and have under the Knoxville. We have a wonderful time, and we toast. And each evening or each Tuesday, it seems like Alan and Bob and Charlie approached me and say, "When are you coming to the Gray Eagles Luncheon? Come to the Gray Eagles Luncheon." I said, "Great, I'll do it. November is the time, I'll do it." And they sent out the invite, and I wasn't coming, I was speaking. And so I think that's called the bait and switch. But it is an honor. So I'll just quickly go over this. I know we're running behind today, and so I'll run through these, and if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those. Oops. So why this course, right? A lot of these slides come out of the course content that we teach for all of our captains. And so you can kind of get a flavor for what we're presenting to them and what we're talking about in class. And this is one of those slides. We talk about why we're doing this. And on that slide, it says the overall reliability of the national airspace. It demonstrates that most of our pilots operate with a high degree of professionalism. If that's the case, why do we need to train it? Right? Well, they've discovered that in 70% of the accidents and incidents cited in this AC, there was inadequate leadership in the flight deck. There was unprofessional pilot behavior, and there was pilot failure to comply with sterile flight deck rule, which is below 10,000 feet. So those are some of the things they're asking us to train in this program. So that's the why behind it. Ah, jeez. Sorry, operator error. So here's the advisory circulars that we conform to in our AQP program, and we've applied these. The first one is 12142, and the second one is 12143. 12142 talks about leadership and how we need to train that in our airlines today. And I know that Alan had just said that he was at the dinner last night. We see 2-year upgrades coming through now, and as you know, we're going to see half of our pilot group retire in the next 6 years. Right, so what a better time to implement this. It is required that it needs to be implemented by April of 2023, but this is a really good time for our airline to come in and start talking about these things. The second advisory circular, 12143, talks about mentoring. And with 2-year captains, you can see how important it is to mentor folks from that seat and pass along all the things you've learned along the way. It's interesting to note that we're cited in this AC. Does anyone remember 1400 in St. Louis and MD-80? Does everyone remember that? Absolutely. We talk about that, and we talk about the incident, and we talk about how it relates to our threat and error management model, and how we can move forward on those leadership and professional roles. So our class is introduced to that, and we speak with them about it. So who do we train and where do we train them? So there's 3 classes. We have a one-day class that is for our current and existing captains and augmented first officers. Those classes are taught by our line pilot facilitators in each and every base. So you go to class in your base, and it's usually the flight ops conference room right outside your chief pilot's office. Our classes are rather small to keep it nice and intimate so we can have nice conversation. Probably about 10 to 15 pilots max. That one day we will be training about just under 7,500 pilots through that in a year. So that training will end in April of 2023. The second course is for our another one day, about 6.5 hours, for our transitioning augmented first officers. Anybody who's not been in augmented operations, we bring them in and we talk about our professionalism and how to be a leader and what it looks like as an augmented first officer. That's taught by our augmented line pilots, our first officer line pilots, and they come in and teach that in our flight academy here in Dallas. And the third program is the 3-day, and that's for our initial upgrading captains, and those are taught by captains in GSW here in our flight academy, and that's the dinner that we provide. It's a really great program. We bring them in for 3 days. The first evening, we take them to the C.R. Smith for a nice dinner. The second day, they give them a lot of barbecue, but I think that's appropriate for Texas. So, and then the second day, they're gracious enough. Our APA has them over for a really good barbecue on the second evening, and they get to see all of the resources that they have to offer. And then we send them home with a nice picture in the Knoxville of their class and them getting their certificate and some wings. So it's a great program. It's special to note that American Airlines is doing it different than most other airlines. We're bringing folks in person to have these conversations, to learn from each other in the room, to see how you act as a professional, how were you as a leader in that flight deck when those emergencies happen to you, share it with the class. We have a wealth of knowledge in our pilot group, and we need to expand that and share that with each other. So we do this in a different format than most other airlines, and American Airlines was happy to pay for that. It's expensive to bring the pilots in and do this in person, so we were thrilled that they were able to do that. So here's a couple of slides. We talk about leadership because it's in our AC. If I could ask you, what are some attributes of a good leader? We have a bunch of our former military here. I know you've had leadership training. So throw out a couple. Throw out one. Take care of your pilots. Okay, take care of each other. What else? One more. I'll give them to you in a minute. Just one more. Good listener. Good. So these are the questions we ask our classes. They're facilitated questions. We ask, what do you think is a good leader? What do you think is a good professional? How do they look? What do they act like? And then we give them the answers. And here they are. Tell me if you agree with them. All of this is located in our flight operations manual. We now have a philosophy statement in there, and it's 1G.7 or 1G.2. And there's been great expense to review that, write that, and create that so that our pilots have a reference. And when we say we want you to be a professional pilot in the flight deck, well, where are these tenets and what does that look like for me? And so that's written in our flight operations. That's the first thing that they created. So we also explained to them how many resources that they have. APA has amazing resources for our pilot group, and they forget. So we talk about the Compass Project. There's an entire page for our captains to reference on there. There's examples of PAs. There's leadership on there. There's captain's authority on there. There's so much information for our pilot group that we try to make sure that they know where to go and what they can get that will help them be good leaders out there. All right. A couple of things we talk about are gaps in leadership. So our civilian world, when we come to the airline, most of us has never had leadership training. Our number comes up and we say, oh, great, time for me to upgrade. I'm going to go in the left seat. but no one's ever trained us to be a leader. We've learned from the good just as much as the bad, but we've never actually started talking and having those conversations in class. So we talk about leadership, and we talk about functional leaders, or people who are designated leaders but don't lead. And so we'll talk to the class about that, and we'll ask them, have you ever had that experience? We talk about servant leaders. We make sure they know that it stops being about you the moment you step into that leadership role. It's about building a team. It's about listening. So all of these things seem common, and you would understand that it was simply something natural to most people, but it's not. It's not. So, and we talk about, people are going to be, will perform when they're best cared for. And so as a leader in the flight deck, it's your responsibility to care for those people on your team, right? We talk to them, not only do they have the resources at APA, but American also has resources for them. Our JetNet, they call it new JetNet, I'm not sure what's going to be old JetNet, but it's been new for about 10 years. And there's resources on there. If they want to learn more about leadership and about what American feels and thinks that a pilot or a leader in our company should be, they can go on and click on these and view videos and learn more. There's Harvard business courses that are offered for free, and they can take leadership courses there. So there's a lot of things for these pilots that they don't know about. It's really about opening their eyes to their resources. We take our new captains, we go for a half a day over to IOC, which I think was called SOC. And we go over to IOC, and we talk to a dispatch training instructor, and he gives us a wonderful presentation about what our dispatchers can do and how does IOC help us. The tenants in this program, we brought all of our senior leadership in to talk to them. And the one thing that we kept telling people over and over, if you're going to come talk to our new captains, we want you to tell them who you are, what you do, and how you can help them do their job out on the line. And so they do a really great job tailoring that. So when our captains leave, they feel like they have a lot of resources for them. So it's an exciting time to go over there. We have training surveys that we send, that we ask our pilot group to give to us and let us know how we're doing. How can we course correct? What are we missing? We want to make it better for the next person coming in. And so far we've gotten, it's funny, it's a star rating. I feel like it's a restaurant, but it's 4.5 or 4.5 out of 5 stars. So they like that. They like going into a base and learning with their fellow pilots and their mates in the base. They like to see them. They like the conversation. They like to learn about the resources and the tenets of leadership. So we're excited for that. These are really important quotes, and we talk to these in our Distur conversation, and we leave most of our pilot group. This is generally the last slide in our presentation, but we talk about American pilots today stand on the shoulder of those who came before us. The legacy they have left us is one of safety first culture, and pride in our profession, and many of you in the room have done that for us, and thank you. We want to carry that forward. Our obligation to each other and future pilots is to embrace that legacy and leave our profession and airline better than when we were welcomed to the American Airlines pilot family. A dedication to professionalism, the judicious application of leadership, and the offer of mentorship, when appropriate, will help ensure we live and propagate this legacy. So that is sort of just a quick overview of what the flavor of our professionalism, leadership, and mentoring program. I'm happy to take any questions. I know it's sort of a dry topic, but I'm happy to do it. And I love this Vince Lombardi quote. Sir, go ahead.
What's an augmented first officer?
An augmented first officer is a wide-body first officer. Does that... anybody on the well, now it's a 777 or a 787. Thank you.
He has a rating. He's got a captain's rating.
Yes, yeah, they're type rated in the aircraft, exactly. Yep, they're PICs, pilot in commands, then they're right seats. So anybody that's sitting as an augmented first officer is type rated in that aircraft. Yes. Go ahead, sir.
What is the junior equipment and base if it's a junior upgrade?
What is it? So what's the junior equipment and the junior base? The junior base right now appears to be LaGuardia. Who's shocked by that? And the junior equipment appears to be, Yeah, the 737 appears to be the junior equipment. Yeah. So we see our captain upgrades. We see 30 of them. There were 33 this week, which made me laugh because the classroom holds 30. So good luck with that one. But we see 30 of them each week in class. So we're upgrading just as much as we're hiring. It's really exciting times. It's really exciting times. Anyone else for any questions? Oh, hi, Alan.
What's the most junior captain now at American Airlines? How long have they been with the company?
Most junior captain at American Airlines is just under 3 years. We had a gentleman who was our most junior to come through the class 3 weeks ago. He was rounding up to 3. It was really 2 years. And he's 33 years old. And he's 7'3" LaGuardia. Yeah.
What's the average age of your new hires now?
That's a great question. I don't know the average age of our new hires. I wish I could answer that accurately, but I do know that Captain Corey Glenn, he's the director of pilot recruitment, he comes in and talks to our captain upgrades each week and talks just about who we're hiring and what they look like. And so most of them are 2,000 hours. They're currently captains, but that pool's dwindling. Right, and a lot of our, without speaking out of turn, if Corey was here, he could answer it better, but a lot of our new hire pilots are coming from other airlines. We see Southwest, Alaska, FedEx, United, but we also see, obviously, they come from our regional carriers, our wholly owns, the military. So they're not terribly inexperienced, and they're not terribly young. So it's a nice mixture, yeah. Anyone else? Well, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Captain Webb, for being so flexible, to her husband, Paul, who accompanied her here today.